Tonight on the Donlon Report, we are reminded about what we can all be thankful for as Americans, from freedom and democracy to having your own independent voice. These fundamental rights are the gifts that certainly should not be forgotten. And with a new year and another election just around the corner, what issues will shape the 2022 midterms? Is the Virginia governor's race a roadmap for Republicans? And how big will January 6th loom for the party? Plus, protecting our democracy remains vitally important. Which global powers pose the largest threat to disrupting global peace? Is a conflict looming? Great to have you with us. Hope you're enjoying the holiday season. From our Chicago studios, the Donlon Report starts right now. Remember when we couldn't wait to get 2020 behind us? Time flies, doesn't it? 2021 is almost in the rearview mirror as well. And it started pretty much the same way we spent much of 2020, in lockdown. But the new year did bring some optimism, vaccines as well. And as the country slowly began to reopen, things finally started returning a bit anyway back to normal, at least until the Delta variant arrived with new spikes in cases and new concerns. We're still evolving in our post-pandemic world, although that suggests it's over, and it clearly isn't. Now we have yet another variant with Omicron. So as we wrap up the year, we thought we'd focus a bit on what unites us, something we like to do here in our little corner of the cable news landscape. Despite our political differences or where we live, we can all come together to help our neighbors and rally together for those in need. We saw that in the wake of the deadly tornadoes that ripped through the heartland. Hopefully, we can all take a minute to be thankful this holiday season for family and friends and for living in a democracy that allows all of us to speak freely, to express what we feel is important and stand up for what we believe. We enjoy a lot of rights and freedoms that many people in the world can only dream of. What often gets lost in the divisive nature of politics in particular is the fact that we're all Americans. As we like to say here on the broadcast, there is more that unites us and binds us, or more that should anyway, and ultimately brings us together, although the reality is it is a challenge that continues to test the strength of that national universal bond. And that's where we start with Robbie Suave, senior editor of Reason Magazine and a great friend of the show. Robbie, start us off with a bright spot from the year, a silver lining maybe, something that was positive from this year.
You know, I look back and it has been a much, much better year than the year before it, and we should be thankful for that. Around this time last year was a truly dark time. It was a dark time politically. It was a dark time in terms of the coronavirus. Now, as you mentioned, we have vaccines, we have some therapeutics. The situation is much improved. I'm going to holiday parties this year. Probably you are as well, or you have friends who are doing so. I mean, that is a dramatic change, and it's allowed. You can travel somewhat. The situation may not be nearly as good as we want it to be, but it is so much better than the darkness of winter 2020, and I am thankful for that. I am very thankful for that.
We appreciate you finding the bright spot, because I was afraid it might take you a minute to find one, but you did, as you always do, Robbie. Thanks. Let's talk about the political division, because as far as legislative successes, that might take you a little while to think of one as well, but the infrastructure bill certainly comes to mind. But even that came with death threats for the Republicans who voted in favor of it.
Yes, the political situation, it's hard to find a silver lining. I think that's generally true of politics. Politics is what divides us. It by its nature does not bring us together. And in the political sphere of our lives seems to always get worse, always get more bitter. But I will say, you know, having Donald Trump largely exit stage right, regardless of what you think about it. Even if you're a big fan, even if you liked his policies but didn't like him or you despise him, you know what? There's a little bit more room to discuss other things, to take a breather, to take a break, because he's not out there commanding our attention relentlessly, you know, having our TVs on, our Twitter fired up, you know, to tune into his every word, to his every thought. That was an unhealthy dynamic, and I'm not even saying that in terms of what I might think about him or his policies, but just the amount of attention we all had to pay this man was not good for the country, and we were still paying him a lot of attention this time last year. That has improved, and I am thankful to have a slightly more normal political conversations, even if I, oppose much of what the administration does, just as I opposed much of what the previous administration did.
Right. Let's talk about COVID for a minute, Robbie, because you had a tweet recently that got a lot of traction, and it certainly caught our eye because we sort of feel the same way. You said, look, we're all going to get it. You'll either be vaccinated or you'll wish you were. It sort of feels like we're getting to that point, Robbie, especially with Omicron, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And a lot of people responded to that tweet saying, well, look, I got it and I survived. A lot of the people who get it who aren't vaccinated, they're going to be fine. Right. And I get that. But wouldn't you rather be less sick? And all the evidence shows that if you're vaccinated when you get COVID, you're going to be sick for a shorter period of time. That's a selling point for the vaccine on its own. Right. I get it and I did get it in July. I got the Delta strain. I had a very mild illness for a day. And a couple of weeks ago, I got sick with not COVID, just something. And I was in bed for like a week. It was miserable. I wish I had a vaccine for whatever that was, to shorten the length of that illness. So really, there are reasons to get vaccinated, even if you're not at risk of dying of COVID. But it should be people's choice. I'm all for it not being mandated or forced on anyone. So it's just my advice from me to you. This thing is really infectious, really contagious now. A lot of people are going to be getting it, and you're going to be in better shape if you were vaccinated when you do.
What have we learned? What have we learned almost 2 years into this, Robbie? And I guess maybe more importantly, what haven't we learned?
I think a lot of the health bureaucrats who have kind of bullied us and pushed us around throughout this pandemic, they catch a lot of flack from the right, and I think it's deserved. The confusion that the CDC, the FDA, Dr. Fauci, Rochelle Walensky, wear masks, don't wear masks. You can't spread it if you're vaccinated. Well, actually, you can. What about the testing? They screwed up testing. There's been a lot of guidance from on high, and they think they can tweak our behavior. Mask mandates come back. Then it's like, well, is that really doing any good? So I think we should recapture a little bit of our American spirit, our enthusiasm for liberty. These people can advise us, but they should not have dominion over our lives any longer. It should fall to individuals to make the best choices for their health and for their families.
Yeah, while we have you,
I think
Robbie,
that's become even clearer.
Yeah, indeed. Give us your maybe a prediction for 22, or maybe something that's on your wish list for the new year.
What's on my wish list? I think I'm gonna buy a car. I'm sick of I'm taking electric scooters all over DC,
but why am I not
I think it's
surprised
time for
by
me
that?
I'm a big fan of the scooters. I actually took one to the studio today, so there you go.
All right. Listen, on a personal note, Robbie, it's been an interesting journey for us here at NewsNation, and an interesting path we've been on for the last year or so. And I want to thank you for all that you've done for us here at the network and for this show in particular. It's been great to have your voice and great to get to know you.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy and it's so grateful to be on a show that really prizes a kind of independent streak and a positive dialogue when that's appropriate, instead of the relentless screaming that we see in so much tribal media. So thank you, and happy holidays to you.
Same to you. Robbie Suave, senior editor of Reason Magazine. Take care, Robbie. For more now, I am joined by New York Times bestselling author Ellis Hennigan and host of the Eat, Drink, Smoke podcast, Tony Katz. It's great to have you both as well, and I appreciate what you've done for us, too. Let's start with a Cornell study that I'm guessing you guys both saw that found we may be approaching a tipping point where no issue imaginable can unite Democrats and Republicans again, not even being attacked by a foreign power or another pandemic. Let's start with you, Ellis, on this one, because that I found to be either beyond troubling and even almost frightening.
It is the bleakest single fact about where we are today. God, I hate to rain on all the cheeriness we just had the past couple of minutes. But the fact, think about COVID for a second, because that's the most striking example, I think. Here we've got a deadly disease that's killed 800,000 of our fellow Americans, continues to threaten us, and we can't agree on the basic facts, right? Should you get vaccinated? Listen, I'm in the opposite camp. I think that we should pressure people and maybe even require them to not give each other a deadly disease. But we can't even get to that debate because we don't agree on the basic facts.
What do you think, Tony? Are we reaching this tipping point, or are we already there?
I think that you got to get yourself out of the media landscape and think a little bit Deeper. We don't have 800,000 people who died of COVID. We have 800,000 people who died with COVID. And this is exactly the problem. We don't yet know with comorbidities and other things what really took place. That is not a denial at all of COVID, nor is it being anti-vax. I think the vaccine works. But the idea of vaccine mandates and force, yes, that divides people.
Sure.
When you want to force people, you divide them. But once you get out of the political landscape and you get into people's living rooms, you get into the cigar lounges, a place I love to be, you get on the bar stool, people are having conversations and engaging with each other. We don't hate our neighbor as much as we are told we hate our neighbor. We're all not Rand Paul and whoever that guy was who attacked him. Most of us agree and disagree and have a barbecue and do good things. So get yourself out of that landscape, go talk to people, and you'll find you can have rational conversations where you might have a disagreement, but you're not at each other's throats.
Ellis, the other thing that I looked up the other day was the polls that found the majority of people felt we were going in the wrong direction. And I was like, it seems to me we're always thinking we're heading in the wrong direction. And it turns out, I guess, since 1972, people think we've been going in the wrong direction. The last time we were on the right path was right after 9/11, where 72% of people, and this is what we're talking about, something catastrophic, or, you know, a foreign power invading us, bringing us together. But even then, 7 months later, it was back to on the wrong track again.
Yeah, and I wonder if 9/11 were now, would we have had those 90% numbers? I mean, the one thing we do agree on, if we're looking for bright sunshine amid the clouds, we all agree we hate who's ever leading us, you know, and that every midterm, by the way, which is coming up,
right,
it's likely to go in the opposite direction. So is that a faint thing to be excited about? Maybe that's about all we got.
Tony, another poll we talked about was the younger generation losing faith in democracy. This was another troubling poll. 52% thought our democracy was in trouble. Why is that, do you think, and what do we do about it?
Well, it starts with the fact that we taught them that democracy is bad. We taught them that capitalism is bad. You have the ceding of academia to progressive left and a theory and a philosophy that doesn't jive with America thriving and surviving. So when you give up that ground and you give up cultural ground to people who think that somehow our existence is bigoted and hateful and wrong, don't be surprised when you find an entire generation of people who think we're bigoted, hateful, and wrong, when we are not. You change that by open conversation. You change that by engaging more conversation, not less. You change that by challenging Twitter and Facebook and the social media giants and the tech giants who want to censor people. You change that by creating platforms like NewsNation now. That's how you do it. You enter more possible dialogue into the sphere, and it's amazing what good things can come out of it.
Ellis, what do you make of that? And how do we get more young people to take part in politics? We talk a lot about how many octogenarians are in the Senate. When do you think we'll see a turnover? What will it take?
So this weekend is a perfect test case for me. I am in North Carolina at a family wedding, okay? One of the bride's families from Texas. The groom's family is from North Carolina. The rest of us are from Louisiana, New York, a bunch of other places. I got to tell you, I love the idea that the answer is more speech. I don't think I'm going to go around this wedding and ask people, so who do you think won the presidential race? What about that Trump guy? What's going to happen at 24? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to avoid that. And frankly, I hate that that's the answer. But I think I should avoid politics this weekend.
Yeah, let's make it a happy wedding for sure. Okay, we'll give you. Go ahead, Tony.
What a weird thing to ask at a wedding, though. who do you think won the election?
God.
Just have a bourbon.
What
and
about
enjoy
that
yourself.
Trump guy? You know?
Okay.
We're talking
Hey,
sports, I think.
Yeah. Last question for you guys too. What do you want to see in 2022? What are you, I guess, looking forward to? Tony, we'll start with you.
I am looking forward to people buying the book Let's Go Bourbon, available at Amazon.com. It's not an Ellis Henneken-sized book, but dang it, I like it. I honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing if this philosophy of mine can take root and take hold and get more people into creating conversations and having them without being at each other's throats.
How about you, Ellis?
Well, higher book sales is always a good thing to root for. Yes, I'm in favor. You know what I like? I like some accomplishments out of Washington. Less radical. For instance, we do have something about how we're going to deal with the fact that our voting system is screwed up, and I'm not going to get into the sides of it, but let's make a little progress on that. Let's have some social spending of the sort that people want, the universal pre-K, the cheaper prescription drugs. Let's see if we can just get a few things accomplished that are 80% issues, and we'll deal with the 50% issues later.
Maybe that'll restore some faith in democracy as well. New York Times best-selling author Ellis Hennigan and host of the Eat, Drink, Smoke podcast, Tony Katz. I know it's the holidays. I appreciate you guys both making time for us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Well, we've asked before, and we're about to ask it again. Will next year finally usher in a return to normal? And if so, what are the top travel spots? We have the list for you. And don't forget, you can follow us on social media at the Donlon Report on Twitter. Well, as we tried our best to return to normal this year, a lot of Americans were ready for a much-needed vacation. But as we hit the road and the air, a disturbing trend came with it. Unruly passengers. We've all seen the videos from passengers fighting and shouting to verbally and physically assaulting flight attendants. There have been more than 5,500 events this year alone, and that data is only through December 7th. Take a look at this chart of unruly incidents. You can see on the far right, it just basically shoots straight up. Again, 5,500 incidents this year. It's sort of the wild, wild west in the air. The TSA has had enough. Act up on a flight or at an airport, and you're going to pay for it. How much? Up to $37,000. And you could also end up in jail or charged criminally. For more on all this now, joined by our friend, travel journalist and NewsNation contributor, Peter Greenberg. Peter, let's start with that. You just saw more video of another unruly passenger. We mentioned 5,500 events. Typically, there would be around 500 in a year. The increased fines don't seem to be helping. What is happening in the air?
Well, let's talk about those fines. First of all, you mentioned $37,000. I've seen some fine numbers of up to $47,000, but keep in mind, they're only proposed fines by the FAA. The FAA is not an enforcement agency. They can only refer to the U.S. Department of Justice. You mentioned 5,500 cases. Of those 5,500, less than 60 have been referred to the U.S. Department of Justice for prosecution. And what about those fines? Not a single one of them has been paid even partially or at all.
Wow.
So the question of a deterrent factor here remains unresolved.
It sounds like it. Are they putting more air marshals on flights, Peter?
They're not putting more air marshals on flights. They really actually had less air marshals on flights. The most recent incident that we saw earlier in the month, there actually was an air marshal on board, and even he got assaulted.
Right.
So the real issue here is what the airlines are trying to do. Hopefully it'll be done by the end of this year, early next year, and that is to put together an industry-wide verifiable no-fly list across the board. Because right now, if I act up on an American Airlines flight and I get thrown off the plane, arrested, fined, or maybe even jailed, nothing stops me from coming out of that and checking in on a Delta Airlines flight. So right now they're trying to get some kind of a system there where they can share information to make sure that once you're banned, you're banned.
All right, international travel is opening back up again. Peter, where are people going over the holidays, and what are some of the top spots abroad, especially next year?
Well, looking at the next year, it's interesting. U.S. airlines are paring down their schedules domestically, but they're ramping them up overseas. United Airlines, more than 20 new routes, the most number of new routes announced in the airline's history, including places like Jordan and Croatia. And the real hot spots that were hot in 2019, also hot in the last 2 years, remain hot. Portugal, Greece, absolutely. But some surprises. Remember last year, Iceland was the hot destination. Coming into 2022, guess who's showing up? Greenland. Not only that, the Canary Islands, they're getting service from the United States as well. And of course, in the U.S., it's the wide open spaces that are still number one, the national and state parks, not the usual suspects of Yosemite and Yellowstone, but the other 300 plus that people are now going to go to.
What do we need to know about Omicron if you're traveling, Peter? Because now if you come back from wherever you are overseas, you do need a negative test within a day, right?
That is correct. So it has nothing to do with Omicron as much as it has to do with just changing the rules of the protocols of testing. It went from 72 hours before your flight home to 24 hours before your flight home, regardless of your vaccination status. That's going to stay. However, going overseas, you're going to see a number of countries instituting testing upon arrival as well.
Speaking of that, Peter, do you think there's been a lot of talk of these vaccine passports where you would need to get the vaccination in order to fly domestically, at least? Do you see that happening or coming on at all?
I do see it happening, but not at the governmental level because they're not talking to each other. It's going to be led by the private sector in 2022. So expect companies like Clear, you see them at U.S. airports, to develop a biometric system that's one-stop shopping in your phone that clears you for everything. That's one thing that's being developed right now, but I wouldn't depend on the governments right now to do it because the European Union has one and then France has one, but they're already a member of the European Union. Nobody's talking to each other.
So I haven't flown in a while, Peter. Are there any deals out there? How are the prices right now?
You don't want to fly right now. Right now, until the beginning of next year, it's going to be a little tough because airlines are not just flying 90% full because we're on them. They're flying 90% plus because of all the foreign visitors who have been allowed to come back to the United States since November 8th. They're flying to visit their friends and relatives, not just to the U.S., but through it. So you want to be strategic. Book your flights now starting January 4th. And next year is going to be the real problem for frequent flyer miles because the airlines went out and mortgaged their programs for between $6 and $10 billion each airline. That's a lot of debt to carry. They want to get that debt paid back. They're not going to be getting that debt paid back by giving you frequent flyer seats. So book them now. Book them now while there's still availability starting from January till next May. Yeah.
I didn't realize that because I was wondering if that had anything to do with the pandemic. I mean, we know air travel is coming back now, but over the last year and a half or two, it's just been crushing to the industry. Has that impacted the frequent flyer program as well?
Well, they're making it tougher and tougher to earn miles and tougher to redeem them. They've gone to a fare-based system. So, if you fly 500 miles, in the old days, you got 500 miles no matter what fare you paid. Not anymore. In fact, Delta just announced if you fly on a basic economy ticket, you get no miles. So if you've got a lot of miles hanging around that you haven't redeemed, now's the time to be strategic. Look 6 months to 330 days ahead and get your seats now.
All right, where to go? Where should we go, Peter? What's your recommendation, locally, domestically?
Well, domestically, I'm a big fan of the national parks, but I'm a bigger fan of the state parks. They're often overlooked. And some of them are right next to national parks because remember, the national parks are going to get crowded again. They're going to be taking reservations. They're going to be overbooked. The state parks are not. So plan accordingly. But that's where people really want to go. They want to go to islands. They want to go to wide open spaces. They want to breathe. And that will continue through 2022. All
right. Travel journalist and NewsNation contributor Peter Greenberg. Enjoy the holidays, Peter, and safe travels, my friend.
Right back at you, Joe.
From traveling abroad to threats abroad, is rising tension between Russia and Ukraine the biggest threat to global peace? I'll discuss that with a former U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel and retired CIA agent. '21 was an historic year for our U.S. military and service members. On August 30th, America ended its longest war, the war in Afghanistan, spanning more than 20 years. But the end of America's longest war came at a cost. At the end, 13 U.S. service members were killed outside of the Hamid Karzai International Airport just days before the final U.S. flight left Kabul. In total, 6,247 U.S. military, civilians, and contractors died in the war, along with some 46,000 Afghan civilians killed in that conflict. And as new adversaries arise and old issues linger, what role will America's military play next year? For that discussion, we're joined by our good friends, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer and former CIA officer Mike Baker. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you. Let's start with what you both think is the most pressing issue. And Colonel, I'll start with you. You guys are the expert. I'm guessing Russia and Ukraine is at the top here. Is Putin going to invade? That's the question.
So I think at this point, there's not much holding him back. When you look at the signals that have been given by the Biden administration, we're actually, I think, realistically expecting Putin to do something aggressive. I'm not sure if he will actually overtake and control all of Ukraine, but I think the chances are very good he will take a chunk or two out of the hide and try to continue to exert and expand his access within the region.
Mike, what do you see happening?
Yeah, I mean, look, Putin has had proxy and Russian troops in the Ukraine for 7 years. He annexed Crimea. He's got his troops in Georgia and South Ossetia. It's sort of like what's old is new again in terms of suddenly we're faced with, the Cold War edginess with Russia. We're facing mounting tensions with China. But as far as Russia goes, the most optimistic scenario is that this is the big gambit by Putin. He's massing almost 200,000 troops on the border in an effort to dissuade the Ukraine from further overtures with NATO and to convince NATO it's not worth making those overtures to the Ukraine.
Colonel, assuming Putin invades, what happens then? President Biden has said he won't send U.S. troops. Is Ukraine on its own, essentially?
Right now, I understand any given time we have about 200 troops in Ukraine who have been there helping to advise and assist. Obviously, we would probably have those folks notified, moved out of the way. And yeah, the unfortunate thing is Jake Sullivan has said flat out there will be no military involvement by the U.S. That leaves a number of options on the table, all of them economic and political.
Right.
And the more they've telegraphed them, the more they've given time for Putin to prepare. So I think at this point, Putin's probably made his decision. I think he's just kind of enjoying the moment.
What do you think that decision is?
I think he's going to go. And I don't know if he's going to go for the whole thing, but I think he's going to go.
When?
The Russians are unique in their ability to fight in the cold. So I'm thinking sometime in January.
Okay, that's kind of been the word. Mike, what do you think about the sanctions that President Biden has laid out? Apparently, unlike any we've seen, the financial sanctions could be quite damaging, I guess, in a number of ways. Do you think that's enough of a deterrent for Putin?
I don't think it is. I don't think we've seen economic sanctions really impact Putin's behavior in the past in any major way. Look, I mean, restricting them from the SWIFT banking system, that is a major deal in terms of access to currency. But in all honesty, it's economic sanctions or what? And as the colonel said, you know, nobody has the stomach really for a ground campaign here or a traditional war. Maybe you've got cyber as an option, right? I mean, we're extremely good in the world of offensive cyber capabilities. Now, the problem with cyber is it's an untested battlefield, meaning we don't know where it could go, and we don't really even know what a proportional response is. So this is an incredibly complex situation. You've got Putin, who really, the Ukraine is to Putin what Taiwan is to Xi in China.
Right.
And you've got the Ukrainians, as you pointed out, they have a right to self-determination if they want to continue moving towards maybe NATO membership. But frankly, nobody, the Russians, the U.S., NATO, our other allies, has any stomach for military conflict at this point.
Well, you heard the colonel. Yes or no? Do you think they invade, Mike?
Well, I think they're already there. Do I think they'll invade? No, I don't.
Okay.
Because I think at the end of the day, I think Putin will actually make that calculation, and I do think that he's playing all his cards right now by making this effort. Now, if we see a major effort by NATO to embrace Ukraine further, yes, that changes the dynamic.
All right, let's move on. Foreign policy concerns for 2022, issue number 2. Colonel, what do you think? Again, you're the expert. I'm guessing it's China.
Yeah, you're great guess, and that's what I was going to say. So the more that we observe the Russians doing what they want, the more we can expect the Chinese to do similar. I don't believe for a minute, we had this discussion within my analytical team the other day. I don't think the Russians and Chinese are going to coordinate. With that said, they're certainly watching each other, and they're watching how each is able to gain advantage over the Biden administration. So I think the more that we see success, the more we see the Russian success in Ukraine, the more you're going to see the Chinese start pushing into Taiwan. Now, I don't believe for a minute we're going to see an invasion of Taiwan, but I do believe you're going to see a continued expansion of attempts of influence, attempted bullying, and a more concise and coherent policy regarding the South China Sea and the Chinese demanding that they have dominion over that region. And I think that's what we're going to see develop over the next 6 months to a year in that region.
Mike, what do you think? Because a lot of people think that Taiwan is the flashpoint for the next big problem.
Yeah, I believe it is. Look, despite the immediacy of the Ukraine and Putin massing troops on the border, I mean, that's right in our face. I think the bigger picture, the bigger problem really is Taiwan. I think Xi has an accelerated timeline that he's created over the past year and a half, 2 years, in terms of at what point they'll make a move on Taiwan. And so I do believe we've got a problem. But again, I go back to that same point. Does anyone believe that the Biden administration has the stomach to confront in any sort of military fashion the Chinese regime if they decide to move on Taiwan?
Well, that's the question, Colonel. Is there a line in the sand for the U.S.?
One of the things we've recognized, and I used to be a military planner on this back in the 90s and early 2000s, China has huge vulnerabilities. They have, any given time, probably 2 to 3 weeks of oil fuel on hand. They have huge problems with potable water. They have huge problems with protein to feed their population. If we decided to act and try to make their life miserable, they would be miserable. Plus, the Indians are now at play as well. So I think that our obligation as the United States has to be to remind the Chinese before any conflict of what price they would pay. Something we have not done with Putin, by the way. And the other thing to remember that any seaborne operation is tough. The idea of just moving forces from mainland China to Taiwan is going to be tough. And we'll see that coming way in advance. I think we'll have an opportunity to say and do something to stop it. So it's not as easy. And I agree with Mike. I think that they have the aspiration of taking over and controlling Taiwan. I think the more we remind them of the challenges of that aspiration and what cost that would be, the more I think we can deter any aggressive military action.
Where do you see the line, Mike?
Yeah, I'm not as optimistic in our ability to dissuade Xi from taking action. It is a heavy lift on their part. If we're talking about a military invasion, I don't think that necessarily is what we're talking about. But I don't think also that this current U.S. administration is really going to draw a line in the sand in defense of Taiwan. I hate to say that because it sounds terrible, but I don't see this. Look, the same cats that are in the current administration were there during the 2014, annexation of Crimea and the incursion into the Ukraine by Putin at that time. So we have precedent. We know what they think and how they think. So that means Putin and Xi do as well. As the colonel pointed out, they're watching each other, but they've been watching the players in the Biden administration for some time.
Gentlemen, we have 1 minute left. I'll give you each 30 seconds on what's number 3 on your list. Colonel, you're up first.
Look, we're going to see more from Tehran. As Mike pointed out, these bad guys all watch each other. And they know the Biden administration, as Mike said, that's all the same players from 2014, 2015, 2016. So you're going to see the same mistakes made again.
Our thanks to retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer and former CIA officer and CEO of the Portman Square Group, Mike Baker. Thank you both for your time. Hard to believe it's been almost a year since protesters stormed the Capitol. How much will that day linger in the minds of voters ahead of the midterms in 22? Back with that and more after this. As we wind down the year, it's time to look back, and we'll start where it began, January 6th. As a matter of fact, a group of protesters, as we know, stormed the Capitol, a day Americans won't forget. So how did the group of protesters supporting former President Trump make it into the Capitol? Why were calls for increased security and police presence not answered? What role, if any, did the former president play? So how also might this impact our midterm elections coming up next year? Joining me now for this discussion, Laura Fink, founder and CEO of Rebel Communications, Democratic strategist as well, and Corinne Clark, founder of FreePressFail.com. Thank you both for joining me. Corinne, let's start with you. If I'm just looking at this as sports, you're the favorites in 22 for sure. So it seems like this could be a fumble for Republicans if this whole January 6th commission and the committee is allowed to fester. It seems like you would want to get this over as quickly as possible.
I would agree, but I think what happens to be working in the favor of Republicans is that Americans also want the January 6th commission to be over as quickly as possible, too. I don't think that this is an issue that is really fueling the public. They're dealing with 7% inflation under Biden, who has a 41% approval rating. This is not what is driving people. This is not hitting their pocketbooks. Liz Cheney reading a bunch of text messages on the House floor is not actually moving the needle here. That works to the benefit of Republicans.
Laura, this doesn't necessarily, I guess, in a way, work for Democrats either. I mean, it's not necessarily a win for you. I mean, we all know this doesn't look good for the former president. But the question is, as Corinne pointed out, Democrats have other issues here, from inflation, the economy, supply chain issues. You have other things to focus on, too.
You made a sports metaphor, I'll make a sports metaphor. What Democrats are hoping is that their Venus Williams taking her last Australian Open, which she did while pregnant and with several chronic injuries. So we think it's true. The Democrats face the headwinds for the midterm elections. But January 6th, and in particular, Donald Trump is really could be on the ballot. That helps them. Timing and Trump. Some of the concerns my colleague brought up are accurate. But we have a year between now and when economic sentiment will drive the election. There's a lot that could happen with respect to the numbers and the people's feelings about the economy. And the second thing is, if Donald Trump is out there stumping for candidates, he is widely unpopular among everyone except Republicans. So those are the two things that could help Democrats moving into the midterms next year.
Corinne, on that note, I guess my point on the first question to you was, why not just rip the Band-Aid off and put it out there and get this over with? Because now, as we see, we could have this referred to the DOJ. We may have indictments. There may be court cases into next year. That doesn't help.
There could be, and I guess you're right. Maybe that's not something. But like I said, I do not think this is a driving force, and I'll have to disagree. I think Republicans want Trump on the ballot. We just watched this play out in New Jersey and in Virginia, where Republicans made huge gains. In Virginia, all the Democrats did is try so hard to make it about Trump, and they thought that that was going to hurt Republicans. And you know what? It might have been one of the reasons that we were able to take the governorship over in Virginia. I'm in Virginia. I saw all those ads, and every ad was, Youngkin is Trump Jr. He is Trump light. And you know what? He's the governor of Virginia now.
We also saw Trump stay home. So Trump stayed out of that race. I think the problem is,
the night before election in Alexandria, Virginia.
Yeah, he tried to jump in, and that was what Youngkin kind of kept him at bay.
Right, and which was a smart move on Youngkin's part. But Trump is slated to play a huge role in the midterms potentially, and his hand-picked candidates are also a problem. A couple of whom have some real issues with domestic violence, spousal abuse, and other issues that really could sour those suburban voters. We know the House will play out in the suburbs of Fort Worth and Cleveland, and having Trump actively involved and handpicking candidates that are to the far right could hamper Republican chances. But again, Democrats do face headwinds for sure. Right. They can only lose 5 seats, and Republicans right now through redistricting looks like they've sewn that up just by drawing the lines in those state houses across the country.
What did Democrats learn, Laura, from Virginia? Is it that not Trump doesn't work and that you're going to have to now focus on other things, as in maybe the infrastructure package and other things that you want to focus on?
I think that's right. I think there was a vacuum. And when there is a vacuum, that creates space for Republicans to do what they do well, which is divide America through wedge issues. If Democrats are talking about things like cutting child poverty in half by extending the child tax credit, which expired just a couple weeks ago, if we're talking about child care for working moms and families, and if we're talking about expanding Medicare and bipartisan infrastructure, the Democrats have a sporting chance of keeping the House and will certainly hold the Senate. But a number of variables certainly will impact that. And anybody that tells you different isn't shooting straight.
No, I want to get to that in a minute. But Corinne, let's bring you back in on this, because what did Republicans learn about Virginia? Because one message was you don't need Trump to win.
I disagree. I don't think that was a message at all. And I think we're downplaying nationally.
You don't need to embrace former president to win, I guess, maybe, huh?
He doesn't need to be on the actual ballot, I guess, is the point. That's very true. But all of these Trump messages were winning. Virginia was a culture war. It was a race based on education policy, on immigration, on things that Trump cares about. These are not issues that you can throw out the Trump base. Virginia was won because of Trump issues. I think we'll see that again.
All right, Laura, let's get into 22 and what we expect to see, because Republicans need 5 seats to win a majority in the House and just 1 in the Senate, as we know. And 5 Republicans, 1 Democrat are retiring from the Senate. Let's play a clip from President Biden, who talked about his prediction for 22 at a holiday party.
Now we look at 2022. I want to tell my Republican friends, get ready, pal. You're going in for a problem. Let me say this again for the president. We're going to win in 2022.
All right, Laura, I mean, what else would you expect him to say? And to your point, and you're always honest about this, you realize there are headways, but not many people who are watching this, pundit-wise, or maybe analysts or talking heads don't give you much of a chance?
Well, you know, Democratic depression is kind of a feature of the party, but I will say this: the headwinds are against us. Republicans drawing the district maps is a big challenge. The truncating voter rights and closing polling stations and targeted efforts to suppress the Democratic vote is also a headwind. But you know, so the House is going to be a real dogfight. But the Senate is very different. Republicans are on defense in the Senate. More of their seats are up. More of their candidates are to the far right and certainly have some issues. And it looks like Democrats are holding strong. So I think the real battle is for the Senate. I think, you know, look, Democrats have to fight tooth and nail for the House, but history, the lines, and Republican legislatures may end up taking them out, but they'll fight hard.
Corinne, the best chances for Republicans to take over, House, Senate, or both?
You know what? It's always hard to tell because there are so many things at play, like we've mentioned before, but I think it would be great to take the Senate. We have some awesome candidates in Georgia, in Arizona, and Pennsylvania will be a fun state to see if we can hold that. Should be a good race out there.
All right. We're going to ask for both of your predictions for 22, and I know I'm kind of springing this on you, but Laura, let's start with you. 30 seconds. Your big headline, your top story you think politically from 22 will be what?
Republican narrowly win the House. Democrats hold and expand their lead in the Senate.
Interesting. Corinne, what do you think?
You know, I'm just going to make this a wish list, and I hope we take the House and the Senate. But even more importantly, I hope the governorships turn out a lot of Republican victories. We have some real chances in Arizona and Nevada to really change the pace of things. And I know there's some very unpopular governors in my home state in Nevada, and I hope we see some change there.
All right, Corinne, this is your first time with us. Laura's been here before, and Laura, you and I had a discussion about this the last time you were on. I want to get you both on what you think will happen in 24. Who will the presidential nominees be? Laura, I know you think, or at least Biden says he's interested, and you think he will follow through on that, right?
I think that's right. I think it's Joe Biden, and I think 70% of Republicans agree with me. Donald Trump will be on the ballot in 24.
What do you think, Corinne?
Well, I sure hope that Joe Biden's on the ballot, and I think it looks like DeSantis and Trump are leading. Ted Cruz might throw his name in, and got a lot of good contenders.
If it isn't Biden, Laura, who is it?
Oh, it's Kamala Harris.
Really?
Vice President Harris. Vice President Harris. Yeah,
the last
absolutely.
we checked, her approval ratings were like 28.
Well, she's been stuck with a lot of the toughest issues, which is designed to help the president, and we haven't seen her out and stumping. So I think she's got a really good shot. Should President Biden, decide to stand aside? But again, I stand by it. He's sticking in there.
All right, we're rolling tape, and for the record, I don't think he will, and I'm not convinced Trump's going to run. And I may be crazy, Corinne, but if it isn't him, you mentioned Cruz and maybe DeSantis. Any other names you want to throw out?
No, I don't know, but you know, if you asked me in 2013 who the Republican nominee for president was going to be, I never would have said Donald Trump either.
Well,
so I do not pretend to be a psychic.
That is a great point, yeah, and a point well taken. Listen, Laura Fink, founder and CEO of Rebel Communications, and Corinne Clark, founder of FreePressFail.com. Thank you both for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
Joe.
you.
Meantime, as we head to break, to all of our viewers out there, we want to thank you for making NewsNation the fastest growing cable news network in the country. We'll be right back. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.